talk about approaching angel investors. What's the best way to go about doing that? And again, to set the backdrop, this last quarter it was reported by Money Tree that there was a 5% decrease in VC financings from $7.1 billion for this first quarter compared to $7.5 billion the first quarter of last year. No surprise there due to the kind of the volatility of the market, I think. And when you look to Florida, it's still ranked 10th in the nation for VC dollars. But again, it was down in the quarter, went from 116 million raised for 8 deals to versus 162 million for the 14 deals for the prior year's quarter. And anyway, with that kind of a backdrop, I'd like to ask this question to Art and see if he can pick it up, and then we'll engage in some kind of a discussion. Is what does he see? What do you see, Art, in way of a winning business proposition these days? Are there some new things that people are doing, that'll be money winning for companies as well as attract interest of the venture capitalists?
I'm not going to tell you. We keep it proprietary. It's interesting, the change that's occurred in the market and the way that we've been trying to look at new technologies or things that we might want to invest in that are very early in terms of their stage of development, we've kind of approached it from a more fundamental way, the way that probably some of the service companies and even some of the device companies approach it. And that is, can we in fact build a practical and viable enterprise in a reasonable period of time in a way that whatever capital we put in has a reasonable cost of capital associated with it and a return that we can see in a reasonable period of time. So we do look for unique things, and let me just use one area that's become very popular in the recent release from the FDA on the guidelines on personalized genomics and biomarkers. We've been looking at biomarkers for a while, and we've been looking at personal medicine for a long while. And in fact, for the last 7 years at our annual meeting, I've been showing a slide where I've been kind of projecting that by this time, like this year, we would be heavily in the personalized medicine area outside of oncology. And we're far from there. We really are. And the guidelines that have just been released a couple of days ago from the FDA on how the at least the definition of how these biomarkers might be used in a clinical setting are going to set the pace for additional guidance for the industry and moving forward. So we think that's going to be an important and continually evolving area. And many of us, meaning life science VCs, have made investments in biomarkers and diagnostics and theradiagnostics and the like. And we really haven't totally reaped the rewards of all that. And when you look at these guidelines, you realize that the pharma companies where we thought were collecting all these DNA samples to be able to tie in better profiling of their patients as they go into clinical trials, they're not as deep in those in the data from the previous trials as we thought they would be. CROs the same way. We thought the CROs had enough data to better de-identify in some way so we could better profile a therapeutic in a clinical trial, making this thing more cost effective, making the cost of capital that we invest in this even more effective. Not true. So at the end of the day, it brings it back to, can we build a practical and a financially viable enterprise that whatever cost of capital goes in and the way that CEO wants to pursue that opportunity provides us a reasonable exit in a reasonable period of time. So no new key things, but we've got to look at ways to see new technologies develop in a way that, at least in the life sciences, provides a good return.
Dr. Ulrich this morning made an interesting comment when he was just describing what Max Planck is looking for in terms of adding on to their operation, and he mentioned that they're looking for the best minds, not particular scientific areas, and I think that's fairly analogous to what the VCs are looking for, or anybody's going to be putting money in, is what kind of management is there, and what kind of people are there, because I think you're going to start out with a business plan, and the business plan, I guess as everybody pretty much knows, is you're going to start out going in one direction, but you're going to have to make right turns and left turns and make adjustments in that plan, and it takes good management people to be able to do that. So maybe I could ask either Kathy or Rhys to add in some of the additional qualities or things you're looking for when you're going to be making an investment in a company. Maybe Rhys, either one.
Well, I mean, Les said it right when he said it's management. I don't, it doesn't matter if you're Snova Vision restoring vision in stroke patients or making widgets. The first thing that we pay attention to are the management teams and the track records of management, and also, how heavy is the domain expertise, because it needs to be there for someone on the team, if not more than one. But I will tell you where we tend to have some issues when we're looking at this space. And just this week I had a conversation with a guy who had a device company, had already patented the device, so you would think that that was perfectly teed up for somebody like us. But unfortunately, the market that he was going after was about a $50 million market if every single person who could use that device used it. And we all know that's not going to happen. So I think you've got to make sure that you have a very large addressable market. At Noro-Moseley, we're looking for that number to be $1 billion plus, because even if you get a fraction of that, you can still build a nice company. But I would say going into it, you may have the best business plan in the world, but really pay attention to what the size of the market is, because it will definitely affect your valuation, if not your ability to get funding going forward.
In addition to what Kathy highlighted on management, often within life sciences and healthcare, IP can be very important, so we'll always take a deep look at how the quality and kind of breadth of the intellectual property. The competitive landscape is very important. How many entrants can it accommodate? How many winners will there be at the end of the day? We kind of think through that pretty thoroughly. And capital efficiency is very important for an angel group, and translating that if the fewer rounds and smaller rounds of capital you need to get to cash flow break even, or to acquisition or an exit for the investors, the less risk we take that you might hit a funding cycle where you have to raise capital in an oppressively down market, and that we might have to go against. You might need to accept capital from much bigger players who aren't as always sensitive to our needs and prior rights and privileges. So the more capitally efficient, the better.
That we are or not?
What's that?
That we are, or we
well, you of course will always take care of your brethren here, but it's hard. It can be difficult for angel investors. We're not full-time investors, and we don't have the same mass in terms of the sheer size of the investment dollars we put to work. So in cases where angel groups can work with friendly VCs, it can work quite well. And where they're not friendly, it doesn't work so well. Interestingly, I'd say about 60% of our deals we have co-invested with friendly VCs, and the synergy there is that we can tackle an opportunity early and help tee it up to folks who can really fill out the round and provide technical and governance expertise that we don't necessarily have. The only thing to add there is there are exceptions. We just closed an investment. We had a $200,000 investment in a therapeutics company, Altor Bioscience, in Broward County, and there we were piling on to a pre-Series C opportunity that was being led by some very large VCs, and so for us that's a great opportunity to jump in and hope that we're treated nicely down the road.
Okay, just to get more macro at this point, how have the recent gyrations in the market, has that had any impact on the types of companies you're looking at, valuations, or you're thinking more long-term down the road? Maybe if you could kind of address that.
Well, first of all, for early stage investing, the way the process has really kind of evolved over the last 8 years is that, and here I'm talking about the area that a lot of people call this valley of death or valley of no financing, where you just can't get something in there, and the angels have done a great job of trying to find ways to support these technologies as they move forward. So I'm not talking about that area, nor the next area where you're seeing Series A and Series B rounds being raised at larger dollar amounts than we've ever seen before. I mean, we did a Series A on a phase 2 compound with a discovery platform that raised $35 million from 2 investors. And we're doing a Series B that'll raise another $30 million from 3 investors. And these are done in a way that where no one's really worried about what that step up is from the A and the B, because we're really looking at the bigger exit. And that kind of mindset has kind of evolved in the pure biotechnology early stage pharmaceutical development process, where the